Welcome to the program. You're with Rise News in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Ahead over the next 30 minutes, all the global headlines you need to know about. I'm Folake at Adesugba. Rise News now begins. And our top stories: a partial shutdown of the U.S. government is now certain to begin after Republican senators failed to muster the votes needed to approve the $5 billion President Trump wants for a border wall. Plus, London's Gatwick Airport suspends operations again after reports that a drone had been sighted. It had earlier resumed flights after 32 hours of disruption for thousands of passengers. And another day of big losses as the US market recorded its biggest falls since 2008, led by tech giants. All right, kicking off with some breaking news. The U.S. government is heading towards a partial shutdown after President Donald Trump's fellow Republicans in the Senate failed to muster the votes needed to approve $5 billion he demanded for a border wall that is fiercely opposed by Democrats. The shutdown, scheduled for midnight Friday, that is 050 GMT time Saturday, will disrupt government operations and leave hundreds of thousands of federal workers furloughed or forced to work without pay just days before Christmas. Trump said the impending shutdown of key parts of the federal government could last a very long time, and he sought to blame Democrats. They in turn put the blame squarely on him for his demand for wall funding on Thursday, after earlier backing bipartisan short-term government funding legislation passed by the Senate on Wednesday without any such money.
On this vote, the ayes are 315, the nays are 48, two-thirds being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I send to the desk a privileged report for the Committee on Rules for filing under the rule.
Clerk will report the title.
Report to accompany House Resolution 1185.
Refer to the House calendar and ordered printed. Of Rule 1, the Chair declares the House in recess, subject to the call of the Chair.
And the Trump administration is planning to withdraw thousands of troops from Afghanistan. According to reports, about 7,000 troops, roughly half the remaining U.S. military presence in the country, could go home within months. The reports come a day after the president announced the country's military withdrawal from Syria. Before his election, Mr. Trump repeatedly publicly advocated leaving Afghanistan, but last year he indicated he would keep boots on the ground indefinitely to prevent the country's collapse amid a Taliban resurgence. And Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu says his country welcomed the decision by the United States to withdraw its troops from Syria. The minister spoke of a need to coordinate the withdrawal with the United States and that all countries needed to be vigilant toward the remnants of the Islamic State group. Cavusoglu also warned that the withdrawal should not create a vacuum that could be filled by terrorist groups.
Well, with regards to the decision of the United States to withdraw from Syria, we welcome that decision. And Turkey fully supports the territorial integrity of the country. I mean, Syria, we are very much committed to that. And we have been fighting Daesh, which forced the country with the biggest territory of the country for many years. And we believe that Daesh is defeated, but still we should be very vigilant, because Daesh and the other radical groups are still on the ground. So many issues that Turkey and the United States should coordinate, and there shouldn't be any vacuum in the country that terrorist groups might also fulfill it, including YPG, PKK. And we actually ask our ally United States not to support or not to engage with another terrorist organization in our fight against Daesh.
Still in Turkey, President Recep Tayyip says the U.S.'s decision to withdraw its troops from Syria after he reassured President Trump that Turkey could eradicate the remnants of Islamic State group with just logistical help from Washington. Speaking in Istanbul, Erdogan welcomed Trump's withdrawal decision, calling it the clearest and most encouraging statement from Washington to date, adding that Turkey remained cautious, citing negative experiences of the past.
Sayın Trump'la da yaptığımız görüşme neticesinde bize
As a result of our conversation with Mr. Trump, this is what he said. Can you clear Daesh from this region? We have cleared it in the past, and we can do it again from now on as long as you, the US, give us the necessary logistic support. And so, did they begin to withdraw? They did. Finally, in recent days, we have been able to hear the clearest and most encouraging statements to date from the US administration. Our ancestors say you need to be prudent if you have suffered in the past. Due to our negative experiences in the past, we welcome those statements with pleasure and an equal amount of caution. As a matter of fact, we had decided last week to launch a military incursion into the east of the Euphrates River and shared that information with the public. Our phone call with President Trump, along with contacts between our diplomats and security officials and statements by the United States, have led us to wait a little longer. Obviously, this is not an open-ended waiting period. We will be working on our operational plans to eliminate Daesh elements, which are said to remain intact in Syria, in line with our conversations with President Trump. In other words, over the next months, we will adopt an operational style geared towards eliminating PKK-PYD, Kurdistan Workers' Party Democratic Union Party, elements and Daesh remnants. These should be known.
Once again in Britain, a further drone sighting has again disrupted the UK's second biggest airport, with flights grounded and passengers unable to fly. Aircrafts were left circling above the area during the latest alert, which came at about 17:10 GMT time. Flights resumed less than 90 minutes later. A spokeswoman for the airport says the suspension was only as a precaution. Gatwick had reopened earlier today after drones flying over the airfield closed it for more than a day. The airport was initially closed on Wednesday following the first drone sighting. The spokeswoman said the latest incident was a confirmed sighting of a drone. Elsewhere, a shooting in central Vienna has killed one person and wounded another. Police say that two people with gunshot wounds were found at about 1:30 p.m. local time, and there was no immediate information on their identities. Shortly afterward, the Austria press agency quoted the Vienna Rescue Service as saying that one person was indeed dead and the other seriously wounded in the shooting. The area was closed off. Police say their investigation of the slaying reached throughout the city, but added there was currently no danger to people who were not involved. Well, time for a short break now, but just stay with us. Plenty more still ahead on Arise News Now.
As a fashion writer, I know how quickly trends are created and changed. In business, it's no different. To stay ahead, I needed a plan flexible enough to meet my changing communication needs. More Business 2.0 didn't just give me voice and data in one package. I got a whole lot more. With More Business, setting up my website was no problem. But I'm not just a fashion writer. I also own a home decor store before I decided to open an accessory store. With my customized More Business plan, managing my staff's communication is easy. No matter how frequently they come or they go. With 9 Mobile's new online self-service this week, I could adapt my plans to include this.
From 2,000 Naira, choose a business bundle, customize your staff's voice and data lines, and enjoy a variety of add-on business services. Dial *200 *5# now to subscribe. More business.
Here with the Rise News live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I'm Folake of Adesugba. And now officials say at least 13 miners have been killed and 10 more injured in a methane explosion at a Czech coal mine. Most of the victims were Polish miners provided by an agency, the state-run OKD mining company said. Thursday's blast happened 800 meters below ground at the CSM hard coal mine near the eastern town of Karwina, close to the Polish border. Managing Director Boleslav Kowalczyk said a search operation has been hampered by fire.
With deep sorrow, we confirm that as a result of yesterday's accident at the CS mine in Stanova, unfortunately 13 miners have died, including 11 Poles and 2 citizens of the Czech Republic. An ignition of methane caused a catastrophe which led to a fire of a gallery 800 meters below the ground. A rescue operation started immediately after the explosion. It went on through the whole night. Czech rescue teams took part in it with the help of the Polish colleagues. The mine is closed at the moment. No mining work is taking place as the rescue operation continues.
Elsewhere, the Zimbabwean government says there is no need to extradite Grace Mugabe, the wife of the country's former leader, to neighboring South Africa after police there issued a warrant for arrest. Energy Mutodi, Zimbabwe's Deputy Minister of Information, said yesterday that the government was object to move by South African law enforcement against Mugabe, who is accused of assaulting a woman in Johannesburg last year. Mutodi says former President Robert Mugabe was the country's founder and that harassment of his immediate family members is not in the best interests of Zimbabwe.
Any extradition of the former First Lady to South Africa to face justice or whatever justice that is being talked about by the South African courts, when we all know that this is an issue to do with a diplomat, with a former diplomat, a former First Lady. So this is something also that touches on the life of our former President, Robert Mugabe, who is our liberation icon, who is our founding father for the nation of Zimbabwe. We believe that she should be accorded diplomatic immunity, just like any other diplomat. She has to be accorded that diplomatic immunity. We cannot be happy when our former leaders are harassed, ill-treated, or treated in any inhuman treatment by a fellow African government.
Elsewhere in Africa, the Democratic Republic of Congo presidential election scheduled for Sunday has been postponed and will now be held on December 30th. The country's electoral commission blamed the delay on problems caused by technical constraints in Kinshasa province. The vote had been scheduled for Sunday, but preparations were complicated by a recent fire which destroyed 80% of the voting machines in the capital. This delay is the latest of several in an election originally scheduled for late 2016, amid opposition concerns that President Joseph Kabila, who has been in power for 18 years, is finding ways to stay in power.
People who speak English. The message is that the key message we are giving today is that we have postponed election for 7 days. And the election is going to take place on the 30th of December this year. This postponement is due to technical constraints related to Kinshasa province. So, election will take place in about 7 days. Thank you very much.
Looking into business now, the world stock markets have continued a week-long sell-off as the threat of a U.S. government shutdown and further hikes in U.S. borrowing costs compounded investor anxiety that global economic growth is slowing. MSCI's index of global equities fell 0.5%, dragged down by broad declines in Europe and Asia. On Wall Street, U.S. stocks initially moved higher after Commerce Department data showed the U.S. economy is on pace to grow by 3% this year, but paused their gains and then turned lower, with the Dow Jones posting its worst week this year. Investor sentiment remained cautious. The Nasdaq has shed 19.5% from its August peak, just shy of confirming a bear market, while broad stock markets in the United States and Europe are on pace for the worst quarter since the financial crisis in late 2008.
Investors are very fearful that the growth of the U.S. economy and the global economy are going to slow down a lot next year and the year after that, and that there could even be a recession either in the U.S. or for the entire world economy. And that leaves them with a lot of major questions about corporate profits and the stock market, and right now they're not willing to buy or set a limit for these declines. Major indexes, this was the worst week for the S&P 500 since August of 2011, when the markets fell very sharply because of the debt ceiling crisis for the federal government. The Federal Reserve's projections for interest rates don't seem to have calmed investors down any. Some of them were concerned that perhaps the Fed isn't watching the state of the markets as closely as it could be, that it's not as concerned about the health of the economy as they are. But ultimately, it's hard to find one concrete reason for this decline. There are just a lot of concerns about what growth is going to look like with the trade tensions rising and all of these other issues. Government shutdown dominated a lot of the political news yesterday and today. That generally doesn't have a major effect on the stock market. It's obviously painful for federal employees if it lasts a long time. But since only parts of the government shut down, and since these things have to last for several weeks before people start missing their paychecks and adjusting their spending, it generally doesn't have a big effect on the markets or on the economy unless it drags out for an especially long time.
Meanwhile, the White House has laid out objectives for trade talks with Japan, setting the clock for them to begin as early as January 20th as the administration seeks to slash the United States' $69 billion trade deficit with the world's third biggest economy. According to the document, the United States is aiming to secure duty-free market access for American industrial products and reduce or eliminate tariffs for U.S. agricultural goods. It may want to negotiate the deal in stages. Washington is also seeking more equitable trade in the motor vehicle sector and will try to ensure that Japan avoids manipulating exchange rates in order to prevent effective balance of payments adjustment or to gain an unfair competitive advantage. We're headed for a short break, but do stay with us. Sports and entertainment are right up next on Arise News Now.
There's an old saying in Nigeria, thoughts and dreams are the foundation of our being. At First Bank, we dare to dream and strive to innovate, continuing our over 120-year tradition to be the first to offer new products and services to our customers. You first. First Bank.
Thinking of banking in Africa? Think Zenith. In today's fast-moving, fast-changing world, you need a financial partner that understands your unique expectations. A bank with presence in major financial centers across the world, with the enabling platform to facilitate seamlessly, whenever, wherever, however. A bank with best-in-class financial solutions from a superb combination of technology and human touch for easy, fast, and secure banking that creates real value. Turning dreams into reality is now in your hands. People, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Here with the Rise News live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja, I'm Folake Adesugba. Now let's have a look in the world of entertainment now. Actress Kate Del Castillo is suing Mexican officials for $60 million in damages because of what she calls political persecution against her. Mexican authorities investigated Del Castillo following the secret meeting she arranged with Sean Penn and former fugitive drug boss Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. She was never charged, but she claims that persecutors leaked information that damaged her reputation. Del Castillo said in an interview in Mexico that she is no longer in touch with Penn and believes he betrayed her. She said, and I quote, Sean Penn apparently helped in the location and detention of Guzman, now on trial in New York. She also said she was not aware of that situation, and that is why she's always referred to it as betrayal. And pop star, superstar Ariana Grande has announced new dates in Europe of her Sweetener World Tour. Due to demand, Grande has added dates in Birmingham and London, plus Paris, Amsterdam and Dublin. The Sweetener World Tour kicks off March 18th in Albany, New York, and will cross North America through June before heading to Europe in August. Despite a tumultuous year for the singer, in her personal life, Grande was named Billboard's Woman of the Year in 2018 and received 2 Grammy nominations. And Karen Carpenter has now been gone for longer than she was alive, yet her best work may have just been released, at least according to her brother, arranger and performing partner Richard, who's made it his mission to keep her singing voice resonant and relative since her death 35 years ago. In a new collection, Carpenters with Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, Richard Carpenter gave new string arrangements to many of the duo's classic recordings from the late 1960s through the early 1980s. Including Close to You and Superstar, and pushed his sister's unmistakable voice even more to the fore than it had been before.
I got a call from Bruce Resnikoff, who's the head of Universal Music, and he wanted to know if I was interested in doing a Carpenters with the Royal Philharmonic. There's a series, vocal up even more so. Along with our backgrounds as well, was one of the aims. And in doing this. The thing is, even with the finest microphones and the finest recording facilities, there's ambient noise. As I said, like the air conditioning sound, just little things, little pea puffs, or H, if you said wha a certain way, it would woof into the mic, even with the filter, and even when we tried to turn away. There's sometimes you just couldn't get around it. So all that's gone now, and then we're able, any little reverb that I'd added during remixes through the years, that after a couple of years I wished I hadn't done, all that's gone. And as soon as any reverb is taken away, whatever is put in reverb sounds that much more present.
So many days you pass me by, I see the tears standing in my eyes. You didn't stop to make me feel better.
And in sports, Liverpool will be top of the English Premier League at Christmas after beating Wolverhampton Wanderers 2-0 thanks to goals by Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk on Friday. Liverpool extended their unbeaten start to the league season to 18 games and ensured they cannot be toppled by Manchester City before Christmas. However, club boss Jurgen Klopp says he won't be drawn into talks about winning the title.
Want to do, or I think modern football, I like the plan they have because it kills pretty much everything what you usually do. Take a little bit of a risk if you win the balls and have quite a wide formation, but typically, especially with the rain tonight, heavy rain, wow, it made it a bit more complicated. Yeah, that's a challenge. That's a proper challenge. So it's just difficult. How I said, the way they play, and they changed a little bit today with two proper strikers, and you saw it. So we have the ball, we pass around. Adama and Jimenez are really involved in defending, but in the moment they are overplayed, then they are really in smart spaces. They hide in smart space, you lose one ball, and wow. And then you have really to use your motorbike in the best way, especially when Adama is playing, and so the boys did really well, very physical. It was clear that it needs to be physical again. They were physical in a very good way, I have to say. No real ugly challenges tonight, really, and it could have happened on a how I said, with the rain tonight, you cannot judge it probably. But both teams really tried to play football and to defend clean, and it was just good.
Well, that is it for this edition of Arise News Now. Thank you for being a part of the program. Do stay with us on the channel. I'm Folake Adesugba. From me and the whole team in Abuja and London, that's goodbye for now.